Welcome everyone. It is Monday and a lot of red going on. A lot of red going on. A lot of red going on. So fun. So fun. It's only the 50th time this has happened. So I'm kind of I don't want to say immune, but I'm just like, par for course, man. Par for course. I made a tweet earlier about like, is this the major altcoin run that, is this happening during that or is it happening during the, whatever sideways, not much going on, type of section. So, oh, it's green now. Okay, I got an update. I got an from Anime Red Pill. It's green now. At least Ethereum and Bitcoin is what Fox and you were saying. So, anyways, so fun. That is everyone who in the PulseChain ecosystem is like, yeah, I want my coin to go up. One day, everyone. One day, you never know. You never know what's going to happen in this ecosystem with a billionaire with a mission behind it, with tons of people building on it. Maybe it just takes time. I don't know. I don't have any other explanation other than it takes time. And it does suck. I will say that it doesn't, it's kind of like, I think funny enough, from a very pragmatic approach, it sucks that prices aren't going up right now in our ecosystem, aren't going wild at least for the core coins, because it makes it so much easier to create content. And I say that because it makes it easier when you're showing, oh, I want to tweet. What am I going to tweet about? What stat am I going to tweet about? You can find them here and there, but if you got green candles, you got price go up, you got upwards, volume, you got the bridge overflowing. It's much easier to advertise and promote. And just because you've got stuff to talk about, sometimes you just don't have a lot of stuff to talk about. I don't like talking about the same thing over and over and over. I like to bring, new content, good information, as I like to say. I believe I have it from time to time, and I like to share it. But it's hard to do that when prices are down. So what else do you do? Well, you go deeper. That's what I do, at least. I like to especially have the technical discussions and highlight, community projects that I'm interested in. Otherwise, Permabull, we talked about that a lot too. I got a whole playlist on the channel. We're going to talk about it a little bit today as well. Kong's like he's a little interested in it too. But in between that time and Rocket Ship, I don't know. I mean, if hopefully, hopefully you're not over leveraged. Hopefully I think a mission-based approach helps me a lot. I want this place to succeed. If people shout you're losing, I say no, I'm not. I'm going to win. And how do you show that? By by having something more than just looking at the price chart and hope it makes you feel good every day. That's the starter point. I'll say that. And life's not fair. I don't know what else to say. There's not a lot of like explanations other than sometimes it just takes a long time for the market to be in position, for your position in the market to be profitable and pay off. Other than that, it really just boils down to that at the end of the day. So until then, I wait unless the community disappears behind me. Literally, everyone's asking like, when are you just going to give up? What would make you just, what would make you just like, move on or whatever? I'm like, well, when I look around and no one else is here, maybe then the place doesn't exist anymore. Other than that, HEX go up and to the right. That's what I'm looking forward to. So anyways, without further ado, I could chat in just a minute. Welcome back to the show. Crypto Kong. How's it going, man?
Good. How are you doing? How you doing, Max?
I'm doing good. I did my monologue. I addressed the community as far as the feelings of red candles. Although everyone in the chat keeps saying there's green candles today on stuff that isn't PulseChain. So there's that. I don't know. How you feeling, man?
No, you had a good monologue. I think you summed it up quite well. Richard Hart talked about it a whole lot. It's the delayed gratification. I know a lot of those Richard Hart narratives that kind of got thrown around. Like maybe people think of them as a bit more obsolete now, but it's true at the end of the day. Like things like if you wait and you do delayed gratification instead of like higher later rather than just like let's pump it to the moon right now and then what happens like to the longevity of stuff, right? So and we still have the community here like you were saying, like everyone, like we got pop and stream and stuff like this, everyone in the chat saying hello. So yeah, I mean lots of the things they're still looking good. Of course there's like our little drama within the community and stuff like this, but I think that goes with like the price down and like the whole like that sort of thing. But yeah, overall, it's been pretty good. I think one of the things I've been doing is I haven't been looking at the prices as much as maybe I did in the past years and stuff like this. This isn't even just because they've been going down, but just even on ETH or Bitcoin. Like I've been doing other things, working on other things. And I think just hyper focusing on crypto. I've said this before. It's like planting a seed and then watching it grow every single day, watching it grow, watching it grow, watching it grow. Like every single time you refresh your portfolio, you're just watching the seed grow. So that's sort of how I look at it. Is like maybe every couple weeks I'll not even every couple. I do it more often than that for sure. But every not maybe once a day or something like this, I'll take a look at the prices. But it's not I'm not obsessed about it or anything. So
I think that's a
one of
good
the things I've been doing.
I think that's a good point too, and it's hard for it's hard for me to not like I guess it's I think for the community again, we're having these streams, we're talking to the community, we're you know talk about things going on, and otherwise, it's really interesting to see the perspective between I know you stream and stuff, but maybe not as much. You don't stream every day, for example. You create content, but like you said, you're just when you feel like you step away and you work on other things, and that's like sounds like from a lot of perspective, a healthy thing to do, and especially when prices aren't, especially if you're not getting that dopamine hit of, oh my god, it's going up, it's going up, it's going up, that type of thing. I think for me, where at least lately, I've been creating a lot of content, streaming a lot, trying to keep up to date with a lot of different things. For me, it's like, dang, that makes complete rational sense. And I would love to just be able to just take 2 weeks off and just, not look at Twitter or not look at, not that I look at charts very often, but not look at prices, not look at anything, and just do that. At the same time, it's like, I feel at least part of my mission, again, all this is self-imposed. All this is just like the things that I believe at this current day, could change anytime, no expectations. But it's kind of like it's hard for me to not do that and then keep up with what I want to do with my goals and stuff for just bringing the information to people and otherwise. So good for anyone who is just in the community and doesn't feel compelled to just keep up to date with everything all the time. Like, you can totally do that. And I think I would do that if I never became a streamer and I don't feel, and I don't enjoy, if I ever enjoy doing it as much, I think I could totally do that. Because the last couple weeks, I did take a few days off. Actually, I streamed for streamed every day except 2 days for, I want to say 45, 50 days, 42 days, whatever it was. It was pretty much every day for a long time. And I've talked about this before. I feel compelled to stream more and interact more and engage more when prices are down or whatever's going on and things aren't super happy and people everywhere. Just because I don't know, I kind of think about, I always appreciate seeing people do that too. Like when, oh, I'm sad or whatever, you see some pump video, somebody just made of Richard doing some crazy stuff. Like, oh, wow, that's pretty cool to see. But yeah, I think everyone in the community, if you have other stuff that you like to do and whatever you're doing now isn't making you happy, such as looking at the price charts every day or, participating in drama or whatever it is. And that seems like a no-brainer thing to do if you aren't up here just trying to keep people informed and enjoy doing it. If you're not enjoying doing it, and you have something else better, to give yourself a break. And I hope a lot of people are able to do that and just step away and just be like, yeah, this is not making me happy, so I'm going to do something else. You don't have to sell your bags. You don't have to make anything like that. Just be like, yeah, I'm going to go do something else for a while. And again, I reserve the right to do exactly the same thing. Whenever when I'm tired of streaming, I'll just do that. And maybe I'll take a break and stuff too. But the day is not that day. I guess I'll say it that way. So everyone else out there, if you're feeling like you can't retire yet, or you haven't, whatever expectations you had of PulseChain doing all this stuff and whatever time frame you set, and it hasn't occurred yet, it sucks. But no pun intended, the jury's still out, and I think we got plenty of time. And there's a lot of cool projects on PulseChain. I mean, I say a lot. I'm very selectively interested in only a few of them, but there's plenty of sub communities who are doing some interesting things. And yeah, the core coins, one day we'll see Richard back on stream. One day we'll see Ethereum go really, really high. Maybe that has something to do with what Kong's going to talk about next. And maybe we'll see some PulseChain activity around that time too. But until then, I think there's, it's summertime, right? It's like spring, summertime, good weather in a lot of places. Hopefully people can travel and get their mind on stuff that makes them happy, instead of just like, please make me happy price chart. Like, get away from that type of thing. I think that sounds pretty good.
And these are some good points you brought up. Like, we pretty much, I want to say we almost have everything over here on the Pulse chain. So even if the PLS ticker itself, like, you don't have to sell your entire bigs, but there's tons of other sub communities. There's tons of other things you can do. And the RHMax show is actually, I think it's a really great show for just like, you want to cultivate the community in the bear market, because that I think that's when it almost matters most, right? Because when you have probably when you have prices going up, that's when you have a lot of people probably coming in, a lot of new people, and they'll find the content they need. But really in the bear market, that's when I know people like Sami. He probably helped out a lot of fellow Hexkins and PulseChain fellows through the bear market, just because of his content and how much of it he was putting out, and how informative it was, and just all the insights he had, and just like adding that twist, like the Sami humor to it, is pretty good as well. So yeah, definitely I think finding the right sort of the right frequencies to tune into, right? Like, you don't want to, you follow anyone you want on Twitter, but it might not be the best strategy to follow people who are purporting like negative signals out there, right? Maybe it's a better strategy to follow more positive people, but then again, like, it's your account, you do pretty much whatever you want, and it's like your bigs, you do whatever you want, and I think you get what you put out. So, like, I think as long as you're sort of happy, and you're listening to, like, let's say good frequencies and good vibes and stuff like this, then I think I think your mindset will be a lot different than someone who's looking at the FUD articles at the very bottom of the PLS price chart, basically, because usually that's when you get the most amount of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. That's when all the narratives get created that, maybe new lows, maybe not new lows, but that's when these things get thrown out there, is pretty much when you're at the lows. So maybe try tuning into more positivity, and yeah. So that's sort of one thing I got to say on that as well.
I think, and it's not about, for me, it's not about like just being an echo chamber of only following people who only post bullish stuff. Like, for me, it's about, I use Twitter for information. I did a poll earlier today about, why do you watch streams? Do you watch it to, for people to make you feel good, or are you looking for good information? And surprisingly, a lot of people were honest on there too. Maybe I'll pull it up in a bit, but a lot of people said watch for good information, but plenty of people just watch it for the feel good. Nothing wrong with that. You want to be entertained. You just want to relax or whatever. You're not really interested in what's going on. You're just kind of like, hey, I'd like to hear something good today, that sort of thing. But for me, the way I think about following people and consuming content is, it's kind of like, I start with, I want to hear everything, but then I want to interpret it in the way that puts the pieces together for whatever I'm thinking about a certain topic. So that's why, people come on the show and stuff. If we talk about a certain coin or talk about a certain thing or whatever, I want to know, I want the objective. I want, like, the good, the bad, the ugly. I want you to tell me everything. I don't care if it's bullish or bearish or whatever. I want to know. And then I can take that and be like, okay, how much do I want to factor that in? How much do I want to put on that? Do I want to make any moves to change or otherwise? But it's all, it's like, I want to hear everything. And then I'll kind of curate it in the way that, okay, makes the most sense for whatever I'm working on or whatever thesis I have, or whether I change my mind or not, but I want to hear it. But I have to balance that with, at the same time, if all I'm hearing is a lot of just like, it's not good information and it's only negative, and it just keeps over and over and over. It's like, okay, I've already heard it. I know this part. Like, it's kind of deteriorating the good information piece when everything just becomes this like onerous cycle of like, oh, okay, just more sadness, more bad news, more whatever. that's when I'm like, okay, I just don't want to follow or don't want to hear or whatever it is. And then, so I guess the point with that is it's not about only, to me, it's not about only following people who say nice things. It's about following people who have good information, whether it is nice or not nice or whatever. And people are emotional sometimes. They're going to go off on tangents or say things or do things that you don't like or whatever. And there's plenty of buttons to help with that. Plenty of passive buttons too. You can, you can mute for a while, unmute other times too. You can unfollow or unsubscribe and subscribe back. That's the cool thing about YouTube. It's like you can unsubscribe, but then when you want to see get an update on their content, you can just type in their name, go back to their channel. It'll probably show up on recommendations. So yeah, there's ways to keep in contact without constantly being hammered with like bullish stuff or hammered with bearish stuff. There's that balance that I try to find. Speaking of people who are very positive and everything, Wild SJ appears. How's it going, SJ? So on SJ, she's one of the like very positive people and not in this like everything's going to be okay, like no matter what. I mean, it's good, of course, like always this optimistic attitude, but just being, just being this like, not being able to say like, oh, everything's bad and like giving up, we shall give up, and why are we still here type of thing. I don't know. Maybe that's part of, maybe she has part of her mission stuff too. I think being mission driven really helps with this whole thing. I keep reinforcing that. Like, I feel like if you just came here to make money over a certain period of time, then I think there's going to be more ups and downs than if you have some goal or some mission or something that you want to achieve. And then those ups and downs are just kind of natural. Like, okay, well, that's okay. Well, oh, that's good. Oh, well, that's okay. Oh, that's good. And then eventually, hopefully get to where you're going. But I don't know. It feels like everyone in the community has their thing, whatever they're holding on to, whatever that's keeping them here. And it could be stronger or weaker, argument for even being in the community. And based on that and how much, FUD they want to take or tolerate or believe or otherwise, depends on how long they stay, and that kind of thing, or, what they get into. So yes, community greater than gains. I think we can have both, but I certainly think falling back to the community when the gains aren't there, I think it's been helpful for me.
I remember, I don't remember if it was a crypto sloth tweeter, and it was one of his videos, but he said, if he wasn't in the PulseChain or HEX community, like which one would you go to? And he wasn't too sure. He didn't like. It's tough out there. Like you look at a lot of other communities, and like maybe XRP has a community there, but I don't know if it's the same as what we got going on over here. I think a lot of people, even in crypto, will admit that our community is definitely one of the top ones in all of crypto. So even Bitcoin's got a pretty decent community, but I think Richard's talked about it a lot. Like people will leave Bitcoin after they see the flaws and stuff like this, but it seems like a lot of people in HEX PulseChain they're sticking around. And it is interesting you brought up like what's keeping people here, because it might not always be the price going, let's say, up and to the right forever, right? Because we've had this brutal bear market, and I wouldn't say majority that, at least that I know of our community is still intact here. A lot of the content creators, in fact, I think our community has been growing this entire time. So that's interesting. And that really makes you think like, what is keeping everyone here? Because probably not the same for absolutely everyone. And like you were saying too, Max, just having a mission or like some sort of goal and staying on that trajectory, even if there's like, let's say, volatility on the way, like you're still working towards that end goal or that end mission that you're working towards. So yeah, definitely.
5555s. That's what's keeping a lot of people here.
Yeah,
that it is a powerful,
definitely
not just the stake, not just the future ability to think that you're going to get rewarded and yield and price appreciation, all that stuff too, but just the ideal of making a commitment and then keeping being accountable or keeping yourself honest and truth engine type of stuff, like that transcends more than just the product. I think that really does. Like if I were to imagine myself before being in the HEX community, and I've only been active like like streaming and Twitter stuff, maybe 2.5 years now. But before then, following Richard before HEX, it's 2017, all that stuff. But just before, following him and then HEX and all that, I could see the difference between myself of just being able to, again, have these long-term concepts, playing these healthy games. And it really did change the way I think about a lot of things in life, not just the products, not just with crypto. Like it's one of those things that's, it's been a lot of really good, healthy principles and values. And again, don't agree with everything, not subscribe to all the different nuances. I mean, but I think there's so many important things that you can learn over the years that if you just came in and you don't have any skin in the game, well, what do you have to fall back on? Like, why wouldn't you go to another community? Or why wouldn't it be easy for you to leave? Or why wouldn't it be easy for you to get upset when things aren't going with whatever direction you wanted to go? But if you have something to fall back on, you have these principles, you have these mental models you've learned over the years, or you have the sense of community, really powerful sense of community. And you have this bright future that you believe is going to happen. I don't know. I think that's a sticky, right? The sticky things that are sticky, the game mechanics and stuff. I think they transcend more than the product and more than people who are into it even know. Or I guess I could say, yeah. I guess it's also how much you participate in the system. Like, are you a staker or do you not a staker? Like, is your philosophy more towards one way or the other? Maybe, even if you are part of the community, you don't have much skin in the game. So maybe you spend less time or energy, on HEX or otherwise, because you just don't have a lot of monetary gain you're going to get from it. So there's probably 100 different flavors of every person in the community out here. But I think having a solid foundation to fall back on when the gains, aren't going up and to the right, that's at least helped me be like, this is par for course, man. I'm just going to wait a little bit longer. Just going to keep waiting. And I'm going to, in the meantime, I'm going to be productive and I'm going to be as happy as I can. And it's going to make it even better if and when glory does come. But anyways, long-winded way of talking about the community and the different incentives and different structures and we have here. But enough of that. Kong, what do you have to show us? What do we get? I keep hearing about Ethereum and Bitcoin. What are they doing? Okay.
Should we pull up some Ethereum and Bitcoin?
Yeah, whatever charts you want to talk about.
Yeah, I'll pull up the charts right here actually.
Validator, that's where the pressure will make diamonds of it all. Yeah, diamonds, or find a different community, different hobby, different mindset. One of those. I really do. There's a certain diminishing return. I will say that. I've thought about that recently. The diminishing return of I see a lot of good people out there struggling or just upset or just not being rewarded for what they think they did as a wholesome, like they thought they were doing a wholesome thing. They thought, staking would be way more rewarding in the short term, all that stuff too, I would imagine. And that sucks because I want every person who buys HEX to be rewarded as quickly and easily as possible. And all the pain and all the waiting and all the, disappointment or whatever's occurred in the last 2 or 3 years from time to time, that sucks. And I hate to see people go through it. So that's one thing I hope we don't get to, is a diminishing return of the community where everyone's like, all right, you know what? I'm not waiting 10 years for price to go up. I'm not waiting 5 years. I'm not waiting 3 years. Like whatever it is, we're over here. They're going to, go chase other coins and stuff. And that sucks to see good people leave the community. And I hope that doesn't happen. I hope we're able to minimize that at least.
So yeah, people weren't kidding about ETH going on a little bit of a run here. It seems
that looks like a green candle.
That looks like a green candle. So, yeah, this is pretty good. I see in the chat people talking about the ETH ETF. I do think that there will be an ETH ETF. I know it's there's no guarantee or anything like this, but that'll be really exciting, really interesting to see if that plays out.
So May or August? I think that's the big question.
May or August? I would probably go with later rather than sooner, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's sooner rather than later. Either way, this is a nice little green candle. So yeah, probably makes the PLSW ETH chart look a bit uh that might put a little bit out of whack. But yeah, Richard Hart's ETH trade will be it's coming back, right? So that's
I
that
guess
I think.
that's. I love how you pulled the silver lining. Well, somebody who bought a bunch of ETH is doing looking better right now. The pulse ratio did it go down? Is it can you look at the pulse ETH ratio? I imagine it
I
did
can
unless
pull it
pulse
up.
went
Yeah.
up. Yeah. Appreciate
Yeah,
that, people arms.
that is that is one ratio actually that I see a lot of people getting a little bit disappointed about is the pulse chain to WETH pair. I think that one might have hit new lows. I think yesterday I saw a bunch of people on Twitter complaining about it. So um, I can't. Here it is actually. I couldn't find it for some reason, and it's still not the right one. So here we go. Here, yeah. Here's the exact same hockey stick, and you can see here. So basically, this chart, it's kind of a bit deceiving. Not really, but when this is going up, this is Ethereum going up more than PulseChain. That's what that means. And if this chart is going down, that means PulseChain is starting to outperform Ethereum. Could also invert this. It might make it a little bit more sense. Yeah, here it is. So this was SEC crash. I'll just point out like the facts on the chart. This was the SEC crash around the 31st of July. Um, we had the the 30th and the 31st kind of big red candles there. A little bit of a recovery, and this is priced in Ethereum, by the way. So this isn't the USD price, but you can see here, Pulse Chain's actually sitting at new lows against Ethereum. This isn't necessarily because I mean Pulse Chain has dumped a little bit, um, but you saw that big green candle on Ethereum. It's probably what caused this like red candle on Pulse Chain, just because it didn't repeat the same sort of gains. So here's the pulse chart. You can see also like even this one, even this one had a what was this, the daily yeah, so this was yesterday. uh I saw people tweeting about this actually. This was, I think a lot of people got a bit disappointed from that, but I saw, if you guys look on Twitter, I saw Understanding Crypto's tweet. um he was doing some TA on this chart. He was saying that it's still bullish, and I think a lot of people are saying that it's still like the structure is still good, and as long as we don't make new lows, let's say on the USD pair, then we should still be pretty bullish on Pulse Chain. I'll bring up incentive as well because looking at Pulse Chain probably isn't the best of the RH tickers. For some reason, if you guys remember last SEC, when like last bear market when SEC was coming after us and everything, like this coin went to like I think it was as low as 30 cents, and everyone called it the dumb forever token. Like, why would you buy this token? Things of this nature, right? And now we can see it against Wrap Pulse. Like it did dump a whole lot from the original, like I think it was $80 top when Pulse Chain came out. Now recently, we can actually watch the rally it did, and this is a rally versus Pulse Chain. So not even versus the dollar, but versus Pulse Chain. So it did an extra 600% versus Pulse Chain. And I think in this same time frame, Pulse Chain did, was it a 4x, 5x, 6x, something like this. Went from 3
Sounds about
to
right.
17. So it might have even been more x's. So um, yeah, this one's actually been holding up quite well though. Like if we take a look at how much it dumped, only 28% off the wick low, which is quite weird. Like especially in crypto, like minus 28% isn't the end of the world. Like this is just like, this is your average day volatility, but for some reason, like incentives, it's really holding up against PLS right now. Even if we look at the current price from the wick high, it's only down about 14% from its wick high against Pulse Chain. So it looks like if you were holding incentive, like you might not even be hurting as bad as someone who is just like all in PulseChain, which I don't. There's probably people out there who are all in PulseChain maybe, but for some reason like the Dump Forever token, it did quite well. We'll measure the gains from 36 cents here. It might have gone even lower. We'll see if we can catch a lower price, but yeah, it looks like around here. Anyways, it came, yeah, 20 around 22x. I think I've seen people measure this even higher, but that is quite insane. Um, we'll measure it coming down as well just to see where we're at. But yeah, this one's down minus 70%. Still holding up quite well against PulseChain, but against the dollar, you can see you're still down a little bit. But yeah, I think it's weird. Like I said, Ethereum in the ETF, and I think with people, I think this is how the market cycle sort of work. I brought this up last stream with on your show RHMax. I had the ETH chart against Bitcoin, and you could see usually roughly a year after the halving, you'll start to see ETH take off against BTC, and I'm not too sure if we'll start to see PulseChain and all of the RH tickers have their day in the sun until maybe towards the end of the bull market. I'm not exactly too sure when these things would pump, but if we're looking at last cycle, I think, and even if we're looking sort of like in general, like RH really likes when his tickers sort of stand out, like when everything in crypto is red. But for some reason, the RH tickers are all up like 90% in a day, 100% in a day, things like this, right? So they really stand out. I wouldn't be surprised if it sort of works like this coming into the future. I know it's hard. I remember Richard Hart's tweet. I think I bookmarked it, but he says, doesn't it feel, don't you feel sad that everything seems like it's flying up and your tokens are just sitting there? Maybe
Yeah.
you should sell, right? Um, that was an interesting tweet. I think things like this will take time, and I think he wants his coins in the spotlight. And he's also, I don't know if it's Richard, but there is that entity who's doing the ETH trade. So I don't know if ETH is going to get dumped in order to pump PLS, but maybe something like this happens, right? So
So
just sort of speculating.
so there, you talked about maybe a year after the halving, uh, ETH has ran in the past. Wouldn't I guess there's two cases to be made there. Like one is if that happened, if it is early 2025 when ETH goes on a run for however long, and then you have the top and all this stuff, that opportunity for PulseChain, but then also quietly, if everything is kind of quiet or ETH goes up and down or whatever this year, it doesn't go on a major run. Wouldn't PulseChain stand out more if it happened earlier, such as like after the ETF or after the top or after whatever whale uses the ETH to help the ecosystem or otherwise? Like I guess those are the two options you're looking at that are most likely.
I think so. It would probably be before things start to either after, it would either be before things really start to make their top or after things really start to make their top. Um, it's probably super generalized because that doesn't really specify anything, doesn't really mean anything. Um, but I think it is the whole thing with the retail, uh I think a lot of retail doesn't, they're unsure about pulse chain, and when you see things like Ethereum, even this chart looks pretty good, pretty much just green candles, a little bit of a retracement, and then boom, right? It I would, if you were a retail person, you'd probably be a little bit uncertain about getting into PLS. I think once we see a turnaround, even I'll pull up PLSX because I think this chart actually this chart actually probably looks objectively and technically better than the PLS one, just because you're still sitting pretty much at this previous resistance here, and we're sitting on it as a support, and it looks like we've been accumulating, right? Like this right here, It looks like there's been some accumulation happening, and these wicks are also being eaten up. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of wicks because usually, like, the more times you'll wick at something, like, eventually you might go through like that price point. Um, but this chart right here is looking like there's definitely people accumulating it. What I would probably be looking for is like a fake out is probably what I would say. Maybe a retracement, a little bit more accumulation, and then we'll see if we start to take off. But as long as I think these charts don't break structure, like if new lows are made, I think that might objectively and technically be a problem. Like just looking at the chart and stuff like this. But if we're just accumulating here, and even if we go a little bit lower, like down to like let's say 1.7, for example, 1.8, or into this region, and we just like kind of sit there and accumulate. Even the longer we do this is probably still fine, because I do think this chart is still in a bullish formation now. Uh, There's there's probably a couple of different like ways you could probably there's probably a ton of different ways technical analysts could break down this chart, but like how I was sort of looking at it is this like this sort of structure here, and sort of how you had this retracement, and it kind of looks like a this kind of looks like a double bottom, and this in general like here I'll draw it on the chart. So yeah, basically right here and right here, and then also like these both kind of look like double bottoms. So we'll see what happens, but I wouldn't be surprised if like something like this, and then even in general, if we have like a even if we have like some sort of macro double bottom, like something like this, obviously maybe not this much accumulation, but we'll see if these charts decide to turn around. But I think PulseX actually looks a lot better, just technically. And we saw last time, I'll flip this in PulseChain. So this is looking at the price of PulseX priced in PulseChain. And currently it would cost you half a PulseChain to buy a PulseX, or sorry, 0.42, let's say, because it's not exactly half. Um, this went on a crazy rally. So when this is going up, PulseX is going up. When this is going down, PulseX is going down relative to PulseChain. So we can actually see here, this went pretty much on a 100% rally versus PulseChain. If you guys remember during the lows of PulseX, if you were around, it was quite weird. People were hating on PulseX because there's so many issues with the deck. Not so many issues, but people like made it look like there were so many issues with the decks, and there's issues with the farms. That's why we have. I don't know if there are issues, but we're just gonna say like that's how people the narrative that was
The
spun is
V1,
going
V2
on.
days,
Yeah, the V1, V2 days,
and
things of this
the
nature,
farms
right?
that came and went. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, lots of people they all flooded PulseX, but it looks like it actually had quite of a good run against PLS. Even Richard says like with the thinner liquidity, he says that's why incentive pumps more, is because like there's less liquidity, and look at the pulse chain liquidity and like Hart's law, and he like goes over it all. But I think for some reason the PulseX and the incentive, the Richard Hart meme tokens, could actually do quite well. Just kind of I don't know. I'm still waiting for more accumulation, and we'll see what happens. But I don't think the charts are necessarily bearish per se. So yeah, that's sort of my take on some of the stuff we got going on here.
We've already got people asking about HEX in the chat. What about HEX on Ethereum? You want to take this real quick? I'll be right back.
Yeah, so Hex from Ethereum is quite interesting. If you guys saw, I really like ICOSA, and it was quite weird because ICOSA, they're meant to sort of transmute and translate some value to Hex, and what we saw was let's say the market decided that Hex wasn't supposed to be valuable, right? And with the launch of iBurn, what had happened was EICOSA and PICOSA were pegged, and this is getting into Hex from Ethereum in a second. But if you're unaware of sort of the background and the details, ICOSA and Hex, they have a ceiling price, or ICOSA has a ceiling price relative to Hex. So if ICOSA pumps, and I could show you this actually right here. So this is approximately the T-share rate, and I'll just make it a little bit more accurate. I'll add a 2 here. So yeah, this is approximately the T-share rate. This is approximately the EHEX price, and this is your ICOSA ceiling price. And it's quite interesting because when ICOSA is at the ceiling price, it actually gives incentive for people to buy and burn HEX off the market for 15 years. So we will see what happens with HEX from Ethereum, but this token might actually not be dead just because of the arbitrage opportunity that exists with ICOSA, and it gives reason for people to actually take the HSI buyback up on their offer if ICOSA ever does go above its ceiling price, which it actually did not too long ago. We were kind of like talking about this a little bit in the background, Max, but I wonder if GIF and that whole system of technology, if they would implement into EHEX and PHEX, and maybe there's some way to incentivize like bridging EHEX over and providing liquidity and bringing them to some sort of parity. So
That's been, I mean, if it gets applied to, so the different protocols it can get applied to. It's applied to ICOSA right now, which has an E copy and a P copy. So, if that's leverage on HEX and that encourages more HEX to come in, because ICOSA gets things going again, that's one way. It's kind of indirect, but also I think related. But if it was applied to HEX directly, if there was like H burn or something, where you could give it either EHEX or PHEX, and it would create, and plus PLS, and it would create a new copy of HEX. That would be an interesting thing to encourage more parity for HEX and more EHEX usage and stuff like that. Because then you would just pick the cheaper one, it would mint it, and it would be based on that, just like it was for ICOSA. Because we saw 26% of ICOSA get burned, and a lot of that was which one are you going to put in the contract? You're going to do the E one, right? Yeah, like you got there. You could do the P one too, but if you're going to buy it, that's the cheaper one if you're going to use it for that too, which is super impressive. But yeah, I mean, I keep hearing about, a lot of people. I did a poll, like, which would you rather have do it for PulseX, so that it has like a double buy and burn, and then for Ink, because we haven't seen like a big community project built on Ink yet, and who wouldn't want Ink to be burned and add a buy and burn to Ink type of thing. That versus coins that start from almost nothing like GIF did, versus coins that are already established, versus ones that have some effect on the blue chips. There's a whole bunch of different verticals there that they could have different effects on. So, yeah, I mean, maybe, before we get into the Permabull portion too, I'll kind of say it like that, but just, can you give people a reminder to Hedron, ICOSA, why they're important for HEX? Like Hedron, HSIs, which are HEX stakes like NFTs, let you mint coins from your stakes, kind of like the liquid. Is it kind of, you say like liquid T-share, liquid B-share type of thing? That kind of you explain. And then you have the auctions for the HSIs you can bid on with Hedron. So that encourages, it burns the Hedron and stuff. And then ICOSA encourages the 5555 stakes. There's a bonus for doing 15 years versus not. For the HSI buybacks, if you want to recycle them, then you have the HSI buybacks, so you get liquidity for your HEX stakes, and that fuels the auctions from the buybacks and all that. And then the WATSA, NFT buyer, you have a buyer for those to get liquidity from, if you ever minted any of the WATSA NFTs that were around ICOSA launch. So how do they fit into, like, why are they good for HEX? I guess like those different pieces. And again, correct anything I got wrong there.
So yeah, Hedron and ICOSA, they are designed to lock up and keep HEX locked up for 5555 and incentivize people to leave their HEX staked and not sell it into a market maker, and actually hurt the price this way, and keep it sort of because what happens when you encapsulate a hex stake into an NFT and sell it on OpenSea, you don't actually affect the price of hex. What happens when you um, trade in your HSI into the buyback in Mint ICOSA and sell it? You don't really affect the price of hex. So it's kind of they were sort of, especially ICOSA was sort of designed to eat certain negative externalities of some of the other like Hedron and Hex tokens, and incentivize people to lock up and keep their Hex locked up for 5555. And it is very, very, very interesting because what we saw happen with GIF was they gave people an incentive to peg PICOSA and EICOSA 1 to 1. Now, what had happened was this caused, since the EHEX price was so low, people were actually when ICOSA reached its ceiling price and parity with the PICOSA, this actually opened up the opportunity for people to buy hex from the market, right? Or you could use your previous HSIs, but maybe that's not the best option or the best route, considering you could make the same value just going straight off the market, buying hex, locking it in an HSI, sending it into the buyback, and then minting ICOSA, and then immediately profiting, and then you can recycle that into whatever you want. Now, what makes this really interesting is it sort of sparked up some different yields in the auction house. So how it works in Hedron ICOSA is the amount of Hedron being burnt is proportional to the amount of yield you're going to receive. So the more Hedron being burnt on any given day, the more yield you'll receive and for ICOSA stakers on any given day. Now what's interesting is the main way Hedron gets burnt, one of the main ways Hedron gets burnt and got burnt in the past was through these HSI auctions. So people were able to start these auctions for these hex stakes, use Hedron that they either minted from previous hex stakes that they got or they bought off the market. But they could use this Hedron to bid on these HSIs, and that Hedron would then get burnt, and then some complex math equations would happen, and then ICOSA stakers would get paid out yield, right? Now, what happened was in the first year when ICOSA came out, let's say in the first 90 days when ICOSA came out, it was at and above its ceiling price. So this gave an opportunity for people to send in HSIs and create this arbitrage opportunity. And essentially, they were sending in these HSIs, which were creating more yield for these ICOSA stakers. Now, after ICOSA, let's say, depegged from its ceiling price, you had sort of less yield trickle in, because in ICOSA the way it works is its supply is sort of dictated by demand. So this way it doesn't really surpass Hex too much, but it can bootstrap it in some cases. So what we're seeing now and what we're seeing recently is sort of the same thing that happened in the early days. Is ICOSA reached its ceiling price, you have a lot of people taking this arbitrage opportunity, buying hex from the market, therefore increasing its price, essentially incentivizing people to be their own buy and burn, right? Like we always hear about the automated buy and burn. ICOSA and iBurn, they sort of have I think iBurn has its automated buy and burns, but ICOSA, it sort of has this buy and burn feature with Hex where, like I said, you can go off the market, buy Hex, and then essentially what you're on the blockchain, you're burning your Hex, right? When you stake it on the blockchain, that's what's happening is you're technically burning your Hex. You're minting T-shares through the HSI protocol, through the Hedron protocol, and you're minting ICOSA, right? And this will mean more yield for us ICOSA stakers, which is super interesting. Like I still have, and I know a lot of people still do have a lot of their ICOSA stakes on Ethereum and stuff like this. And it seems like those in 90 days, I could pull up the, here it is. Here are some of the auctions. So 33 T-shares, 34 T-shares, 38 T-shares. This is 100 T-shares right here, all in 90 days from now. So back when I was taking a look at this, if you got 50 T shares in the auction, that was a very good day. Like that was a pristine yield day. So if you're and I'll calculate this out, and I'll be able to form an exact number for like the amount of yield that could theoretically come out in the next 90 days for ICOSA. Um, but 100 T shares, and this is just like what I'm looking at the face value here. There's probably way more. Like the yield could start trickling in, which is super good. And like I was saying, like if when or if ICOSA reaches the ceiling price again, people will start buying and burning HEX again off the market to fill that arbitrage opportunity. So who knows? Maybe EHEX will have a higher stake supply and a lower liquid supply than PHEX at a certain point. I'm noticing recently, even on the charts, the staker adoption actually. This is for Hex on PulseChain. It's actually been going down, kind of as of recently, since pretty kind of since the SEC sort of FUD event happened. We've seen sort of staker adoption decrease. So I wonder if this iBurn protocol and the way it sort of incentive incentivizes people to pair the ICOSAs, and if Hex, it's interesting because Hex now has a floor price technically. So the floor price is basically the ICOSA ceiling price in a way. So let's say somebody dumps ICOSA, or not ICOSA, somebody dumps Hex to whatever price. There's actually, if ICOSA still holds its value, let's say at 10 cents, and somebody dumps Hex down to like 409 or something like this would actually give an incentive for someone to go buy that EHEX and, like I said, buy it and burn it basically, which is interesting, right? And this will also increase staker adoption. Maybe not so-called staker adoption, but it might increase the amount of stakes being made, and the amount of T shares in circulation on one chain versus another. So it's sort of interesting to see how all of these different mechanics sort of play into each other, and it all kind of trickles down. Yeah, it all kind of trickles down. Max, if you want to add anything to that.
Well, I want to bring up a question or two and just talk about it. So, Wake Dog's been having some comments here that I think we're talking about staking. So, position here: staking Hex is a scam. While you stake, others are staying liquid and selling that 10,000x while you are left with a bag worth 99% less. That is not a uncommon sentiment from people one way or another. That either maybe they have Hex locked up and saw the price go down and weren't able to sell at the top, or I remember looking at my Hex bags at the top too and being like, wow, this is amazing. And then I went down afterwards in a while and stuff, but it's kind of like, okay, well, you're still getting yield. I personally believe they're going to go up over time, but how do you, or it's just, a lot of people look at Hex and just look at the price chart, the old price chart, the EHEX price chart, and think, wow, that thing it pumped up a lot and then went down. Why would it ever come back? The whole, we talked about before, we went over, I remember going over the articles and stuff with you about Hex being a scam and stuff. The point of not staking, let's forget Hex being a scam, but just focus on the point of staking being a scam. What is the case for staking not be, like, if you believe staking is not a scam, for example, what is the case for staking not being a scam?
So I think one of the whole use cases for staking, and especially Hex staking, is the time lock and the delayed gratification. It's kind of obsolete if maybe it's not obsolete because you're still making the yield. But how it's, if you look at things like Bitcoin, right? If you bought, and I know personally people with a lot of stories, like I bought Ethereum at $10 and I sold it at 50 or something like this, right? Or I bought Ethereum at $200 and I sold it at like 300 or something like this, and like I thought I was a genius. So I think staking and time locking prevents you from like yourself. And if Hex if Hex decides to repeat anything similar to what Bitcoin did, then I think a lot of people aren't going to regret time locking. Because one thing, especially with the Hex stakes and stuff, by the end of those 15 years, those T-shares, they will be paying you out 15 Hex per T-share. Probably or probably anywhere in the range from 10 to 15 Hex per T-share. And this is probably extremely conservatively speaking. How much you'll be getting is probably going to be way more than that. I think there's a calculator out there. I'll have to find it, but I've seen projections where they're like 500% yield after all this time, and even if Hex stays the same price and you time lock it, and you make the 500% yield, it's still better than any sort of GIC you could have made. And I don't think it is a scam. Because it's just a transfer of value is what it is. So you are you're getting rid of your value now, but you're actually diluting everyone who's liquid, right? So all those people who are liquid, they're technically being diluted 3.69% a year, like inflation, right? But they're not receiving it. You are, because you're staked, and you're earning all those payouts. And if Hex is successful, you're not gonna regret time locking. You're not gonna think it's a scam. I think it's easy to call it a scam when it is down so much. But if it was 55 cents right now, there'd probably be a whole lineup of people waiting and asking like, how do I stake Hex, right? And like, how do I do it max length? So, yeah.
Yeah, there's a few different verticals come to mind too. I think there's the emotional side of, again, if you stake something and you were trying to time it to sell it when the price went up, and then you got hit with the unexpected, I imagine, price go down so hard, then you're like, well, it doesn't matter how much yield I make, the thing is still worth a whole lot less. Like, you can't, unless it goes up, unless the yield is 100x, like I'm not going to make more than the price per share that went down at this current time. So that's more of the just, bear market stuff that's happened, that sort of thing. But I think when I think about staking, it's more of to me, it's the time horizon of, I'm making a promise with myself that I want to hold on to something, and hopefully it will appreciate within the time horizon that I've set it to be locked up as, that I can get liquidity from. And you can, we have HSIs. We talked about that, if you do want to get liquidity from it at a certain point, and you don't care to hang on to it for however long you staked it for, it could be 55555 or 5555. Then there's ability to, we have the ICOSA protocol and stuff that can help with that too. But I think it's just, to me, it's just a time horizon thing, because I think about, if I have stakes that I made 2 or 3 years ago that I look at today, I'm like, wow, yeah, the price is down. That kind of sucks. But then I think about the stakes that if I would have made stakes last year or even recently with being able to get so many more T-shares than you were able to get ever before, just about, except the really, really early days. And then I think about in the future what I believe it's going to be, then that kind of gives me then I'm not mad at the system. Like, the system makes sense to me. It doesn't feel like a scam at all. It feels like, whoa, that's cool. I can take down the value transfer. I can take value, the value I have today, and I can put it aside, and I'm betting that it'll be more in the future, and I'll be able to get paid for holding it in Hex terms. So I think there's the emotional side, there's the timeline side. Emotional meaning the bear market side, the cycle time, I guess you would say, side. And then there's just the design of the product, which clearly does what it says it's going to do. It's just up to the person to, have the expectations that are not going to disappoint, be disappointing later, not based on things they can't control, such as the market or the cycle times and otherwise. So for me, it's interesting to think about the people who staked Hex for the last 3 or 4 years. The next people who have been staking it since last year, since this year, for the next 3 or 4 years, what is that going to look like? And how are they going to do things differently than the first people did in order to not, in the bear market, be looking for liquidity and not get it, for example, if more dips happen in the future after what we hope is a glorious run up. Oh, you're on mute.
There we go. I was on mute. Yeah. Another thing is, as well as I'll pull up the T-shirt chart. I think just ignore these inconsistencies down here, but you can see the share price. What did it go from? 56 cents all the way up to almost, I think it was $10,000, whatever it was. So um, that that is what matters in Hex, right? People will chase yield, and one of the reasons why Hex, like why staking is actually so important, is because, like, yeah, right now when the price is so down, like, it doesn't actually seem like it's worth it. And usually what you'll see is when the Hex price is going up, people will start to stake, and they'll sort of FOMO into staking as the price is going up as well. Um, but if you wanted a T-share in 2000 and on the 3rd of September 2021, it would have costed you $5,300. If you wanted a T-share in September 6, 2020, it costed you $26. So this kind of goes to show you the cost of the yield. And we're back to 2020 prices, right? So anyone who is buying at any of these points in time, they sort of have the opportunity to get into Hex at uh, like kind of like early days, maybe like kind of early day prices, let's say, like not after like not after the huge, like parabolic run up, like after Bitcoin finished its top or whatever. But yeah, so I think this is the whole point. Like, if the T-share goes to 100,000 and people care about Hex, and that they desire Hex, because that's when the T-share would cost 100,000, the share rate only goes up, right? If the Hex price does well, those T-shares they're designed to outperform the price of Hex, right? So whatever Hex does, the T-share will amplify it, and that you're sort of hedging your bet on that is Hex gonna do well? And if you think it will, then it's probably worth getting some T-shares. But I don't uh I would definitely I always think that having some 5555s is a good hedge, even if you're wrong, because I really like to bring up this calculator, because the difference between, let's say, a 3650 and a 5555 is kind of a big difference, and lots of people they might not see this because it's not super obvious. It's not super apparent, right? Because 10 years versus 15 years, like, it's only 5 years difference. It can't be that much, right? It can't be that much. But well, I'll just take a look at the chart because I think it'll be the easiest way to demonstrate this. It's the year 2024 currently. In 2034, your APY will be 124%. It says your award here in EHEX is 1.252 million here on this particular chart. Now, what do you think is gonna the T-shares? They're Richard Hart said it. They're compounding interest. It's sort of reverse compounding interest, where instead of paying the older guys more, they sort of got in with an earlier share rate, so they get to earn more for all their hexes, right? It makes perfect sense. It's actually a really good system when you kind of go in and you uncover it a little bit. But yeah, this calculator explains it perfectly. 1.252 million in 10 years versus after the whole 5555, you're looking at 3935 million. So almost 4 million. So that is quite a significant difference, right? Uh, yeah, like 300 and I'm gonna say 325% ish difference there, which is quite substantial, right? And that's just for doing an extra 5 years, which sounds like a long time, but in the grand reality of things is probably not that long of a time. But yeah, even if let's say EHEX is a penny in this example, let I might just say it's a dollar because it makes it easier to visualize it, and like the math is easier if you just say it's a dollar. But yeah, would you, let's say you stake the hex today, we'll see how much this is worth. Let's say you stake the 161,000 hex today, right? Let's just say you did in this example. By year 2034, if hex hits a dollar, which who knows if it ever will, I'm not throwing out price predictions. This is just doing math of what would happen if it hit a dollar. You would have $1.252 million from your 160,000 hex investment. After the 555 is over, or year 2038, you would have had 3.935 million if hex were to be a dollar 15 years later as well, like the same price of a dollar. So that kind of shows you how substantial it is. Like, would you rather have 1.2 million or would you rather have $4 million? Like, one is uh, pretty much one you could retire off of. Like, you could live the rest of your life. I think unless you're living a lavish lifestyle, most people could probably live their lives off $4 million. Whereas if you only staked for 10 years, like you have like a nice sizable chunk, but it's not like that big difference, right? Um, Another thing is too is if it copies anything close to what Bitcoin has done, uh, look at Bitcoin 5 years ago in 2019. What was the price of it? Like, I couldn't even tell you. I off the top of my head, I'll have to pull up a chart. But um, 2020, versus 2021 versus this year, like I'm sure. So Bitcoin makes new highs, right? Like if you were time locked this entire time and you've been sitting watching Bitcoin make new highs, like you're sort of laughing because now you have 300% more tokens, and then maybe they're worth 300% more than 5 years ago. So it's kind of like a win, 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 win. So yeah, maybe hex staking is not for everyone, but there's definitely some sort of value here, and there is that transfer of value where you do, if you do decide to stake, you're transmuting some of that value to the liquid holders, who will then get to sort of accrue some of that if they want to capitalize on it. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's
It,
not
it's
not for everyone.
it's a good system, and just the price is just down. I mean, that's honestly the simplest explanation. It's a well-designed system that the asset price has went down a lot, and but it's meant to, I mean, again, it's not one of those things where you're just like, okay, this could disappear at any time. It's when I'm thinking about Hex, I'm like, yeah, people are locking this up for 15 years. Why would it disappear anytime soon? And if the worst case for Hex is that, I don't know, it never breaks 10 cents again, the people locking it up at sub penny, are they getting a bad deal? Like that kind of thing. Like there's plenty of positive ways. It's just this bear market last couple of years just made it, made there be all these cases against staking or otherwise. But I think there's a lot of interesting ways to look at it. Oh, also, I was looking at Twitter for a minute too and saw that, also in the chat, we got 3,500 Ethereum, and something about political pressure or exchanges. They're asking for more information for SEC stuff or otherwise. Again, it could just be for denial. But hey, what if we do get a big Ethereum ETF in May? Like, I keep thinking August, but and what if it comes in May? And why? I guess why would it come in May? As we have like 2 minutes to wrap up here. But anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't. I'm one of those. I'll see what happens when it comes out. Like I'm not doing crazy research figuring out will this ETF get approved. I honestly think it will. I thought the Bitcoin ETF would get approved as well, um, but I couldn't tell you exactly when. And I couldn't I wouldn't know the exact reason why it would get approved. I assume like if there's already a Bitcoin ETF, then why not make the Ethereum one? But there is that issue maybe with the SEC. I think they were getting mad at Ethereum, right? Specifically.
Security.
Um,
Everything's
yeah,
security.
security. So
Security.
ever since ETH 2.0 came out or whatever, it's a big problem. But um, yeah, watching this price chart is quite interesting. We'll see. it seems like the market thinks that the ETFs sooner rather than later, but it'd be nice to see that sort of same build up on Ethereum that Bitcoin had. And then I wouldn't be surprised if we get a sell the news event with some like short term volatility, because that's what we saw in Bitcoin. Uh, Kind of retraced, and that was the last time you kind of got in under. I think it went under 60,000 for sure. Can't remember if it went under 50,000 or not for that ETF launch. So
Wow. Yeah, it was. I mean, I was just thinking, Matt, it'd be nice to have, or one way it could happen is there's just this runway of, okay, it's probably gonna, maybe get denied in May, and then through the summer, July, and stuff starts heating up for August because it's expected to be approved. If it's approved in May, and I think May 23rd is the deadline. That's in like 2 or 3 days. Like, man, if if it does get approved in 2 or 3 days, who knows what kind of price action we're going to see.
that'd be bonanza.
Wow. Is it bonanza? Is this been the boring May, and then the will we have a blow off top in May? Like as far as like the entire crypto emotional cycle, like crazy stuff, crazy.
Yeah, this is nice. Like this chart's, I think this chart's been pretty much pumping the entire time. We've been on the stream, so that's it's good to know.
Pump stream. But who knew the HEX stream was gonna pump Ethereum?
Yeah, that was all us, man. They heard us. They were like, "Yo."
No, I did put Ethereum in the title halfway through, so that's what that's. But we started seeing this. Not pump advice. Not pump advice. Funny stuff. Good stuff, man. Colin, that is we're up on time. I know we could go. I think we could always go for another 40 minutes. All kinds of good stuff to talk about. I think we covered a lot of it. I know. Yeah, touched a little bit on the Permabull stuff, and that's exciting. Excited to see what's coming up next with that. HEX, the ecosystem. Oh, at some point, hopefully we get a pump. We'll see maybe how well Ethereum does and all that too, since that's some whales tend to seem to be interested in the PulseChain ecosystem and relating to ETH in that way. Yeah, man. Any final words? What are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with this ETF. To be honest with you, uh, we'll see what happens. I'd like to see. I'd like to see definitely some green candles. I like the energy the community has when the prices are going up. Like you can feel the party on Twitter. Like you really can feel the party on Twitter. So
Yeah,
yeah, looking forward to that. But green candles to all is honestly all I gotta say is yeah. I
green
hope.
candles to all, and to all a good week. Yes,
Yeah,
like a
yeah.
Christmas style. Always good to have you, man. I'm glad we could do this somewhat regularly as well. And where can people find more about you and your stuff?
Yeah, you could find me at CryptoKong145, just like right here on the StreamYard. So uh, I might be more active on Twitter than on YouTube, but yeah, if you have questions, definitely PM me, and I'll probably I'll be able to get back to you more efficiently on Twitter than anywhere else. So yeah, you can find me at CryptoKong1405 on YouTube or Twitter. So yeah.
Awesome, man. Awesome, good stream, and excited to see where we're going to be at every month or so since we've been doing it. We're like, oh, I wonder where the prices are going to be at next time we stream. Very, very low today for our ecosystem. However, very high for Ethereum apparently. So uh,
Yeah, all
maybe it'll
types
be
of
a flip.
different stuff. Yeah.
Maybe next one will be a flip. Who knows?
I think what was it, like the ninth week in a row now or something? I think I saw you tweet that out. That it's all been read on Pulse Chain.
I think I got that. I mean, I was kind of just going 369s, but I think I got ninth week from Somi. I'm pretty sure. It could be 10th week at this point. I'm not sure. But I
Who
was just kind
knows?
of doing
But
369. It was kind of tongue in cheek though too, because originally wrote here you go. Here's some nuance. I originally wrote 69th week, but I thought that was like too much. I'm like, all right, don't do 69. Do ninth week or something, because that sounds about like what we've had. So now I almost said 69th week, but I was trying to do the 369 play there.
I think
Uh,
at least by the 100th week or the 420th week, we should get some greens. So
the 369th week, we may perhaps see a couple green candles. It's hard to hope so. All right, everyone. That's all we got for you today. Scivive and 5555. We are out.